Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. The DRFBets race of the day for Sunday, December the 9th, race number 8 at Woodbine. It's the Grade 3 Valedictory Stakes, and they're going 14 furlongs on the Tapeta surface. You can bet the Valedictory with a new DRFBets account. And trust me, sign up at bets.drf.com. Going to be quicker than it takes for them to run the Valedictory at 14 furlongs. You also get a 300% deposit match when you sign up for a new account. Here's the field for the Valedictory. You can access free formulator past performances on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Download them, handicap along with us. We'll take the field in post position order, beginning with the number 1 English Illusion. And Matt, I really like this horse's performance 3 starts back in the Grade 1 Northern Dancer on turf. He was running at the end of that race despite a little bit of traffic. It just seems that his 2 subsequent performances have been a bit subpar.
Yeah, just a little bit lackluster, and really, I think a common theme for me with this race, and we're going to touch on this race in particular a few different times, that allowance race on November the 16th at 1 5/8. If you look at that race, it's Pumpkin Rumble and it's everyone else, and it just feels like it's a difficult scenario for me anyway to envision a scenario where any one of the other 4 or 5 horses exiting that race are able to make up nearly 7 lengths on Pumpkin Rumble, and then you also have to deal with Melmich and you have to deal with some other nice hard hitters. I think English Illusion's a nice horse. I think this distance should be okay for him. Like you say, a combination of the 2 most recent runs, and also, how's he going to turn the tables on the big horse?
Great claim for these connections. They took him for $45,000. They got a stakes win and a Grade 1 stakes placing, but he doesn't have a lot of speed. He's probably going to be lingering near the back of the field, who will be at the mercy of pace and race luck. And last time out, basically tried to follow Pumpkin Rumble. Pumpkin Rumble's just handier than he is and had a little bit more acceleration. English Illusion, as you mentioned, a nice honest horse. 4-1 on the morning line. I prefer him underneath in single race exotics. Let's see what Timeform US has to say about the pace projector. The 2 Beau Sprit is expected to make the lead, which makes me think there's not a lot of pace in this race at all, because I don't see where Beau Sprit has ever made the lead in the first call in his career. Let's take that red bar at fast pace with a grain of salt. Let's take the whole pace projector with a grain of salt. There's one thing I do know about Beau Sprit. He's going to really have to improve.
I was going to say, take the pace projector in a 1 3/4 race with a grain of salt. Take any sort of drawing up a race like this is very difficult because none of these horses really has any sort of early foot. So maybe it is going to be Beau Sprit on the front end. Who knows? But I just, you look at this horse and say his only start on synthetic was a victory, most recently at Presque Isle. That's a positive. I suppose stretching out from a 1.70 out to a 1 3/4, maybe he can't help but be a little bit more forwardly placed. This is far and away going to be the longest race of his career. He's just going to need to improve by leaps and bounds to be competitive in here. But again, if you believe that he's going to be forward like the pace projector does, I suppose he's a curious pace play.
The number 3 Bangkok is 20-1 on the morning line, and he won this race in 2016. The problem with Bangkok is he's 7 years old now. He might be getting a little bit long in the tooth, and he hasn't won a race in about a year and a half.
Yeah, I was going to say, I look at it and wonder if he's just lost quite a bit on the fastball at this point. Also worth noting, he has 1 on synthetic. He's 2 for 21, but he's 3 for 16 on grass. I do wonder if he's a little bit better on the other surface.
Synthetic debut for the new face, the number 4 Vintage Matters. Now, this horse is still eligible for a non-winners of 2 lifetime. He's only 1 for 13 in his career, and his only win came back in July of 2016. He has run some nice races, however, for Michael Dickinson. Stakes placed 3 starts back in the Cape Henlopen, a race I thought that he could have won if he stayed focused in the stretch, but his lead changes were all over the place. Last time out, I didn't think he got a great trip on the turf at Belmont on October the 17th. It looked like it was going to work out. He was sitting a nice pocket spot, but then someone brushed on the outside. The pace picked up. This horse checked, got eager, tried to come with a big 4-wide run early on the turn, and he still was fighting in between horses late. I think Vintage Matters is okay. I'm just concerned that he doesn't win very often.
Yeah, and look, this is the kind of horse that I'm never going to be a huge fan of. 1 for 13 as far as wins are concerned, but 6 times with those minor awards. Having said that, this is going to be his first time on synthetic, and I kind of look at it and say his best races have come while he's been going longer, 1 1/4, 1.5 miles. Who knows about the surface, but if anyone knows anything about it, it's Michael Dickinson. And also, I kind of look at this race and say, if you don't like Pumpkin Rumble and you don't like Melmich, you can make a case for anyone. And I feel like Vintage Matters, because he is unexposed, he could be interesting as an alternative. I picked him second in here.
If I were the connections of the 5, A.A. Azula's Arch, I would have her on the lead. She has been comfortable up front in the past, and yes, this is a big ask for a 3-year-old filly taking on some very salty older males and stretching out beyond 1.25 miles for the first time. But the way she stayed on in her most recent race, the Grade 3 Maple Leaf, and her pedigree, she's by the stout-hearted Arch, makes me think the distance, especially if she gets a nice situation up front or near the pace, I think she can get it at a nice price. Last time out, about 1.5 strides out of the gate, she took a pretty bad bobble, and she went down to her knees. The good news is she recovered. She ended up tracking 100-to-1 shot on the outside, but everybody was all in with 5/16 of a mile to go, and it looked like A.A. Azula's Arch, who had inherited the lead, was going to get swallowed up. And it never happened. And it never happened on the gallop out. I think this filly still has some upside potential. Yes, it's a big ask, but she's more tactical than some of these.
Yeah, and look, you're going to get a little bit of a weight allowance in a race like this. You're coming in at 114, and I know you and I, we may not be the biggest weight guys, but at the end of the day, 1.75 miles, if you're shedding some weight as opposed to some of the main contenders, I do think that's important. And you brought up the distance. You're right. It is a giant stretch out for a 3-year-old filly, but at the same time, the 2 races on synthetic that she's run at 1 1/8 miles or longer, she's won both of them. So there's a part of me that does think, like you say, maybe she just has that long-winded type of body and she just goes on with it. I think she's interesting in here.
Seeking Albert Grade 2 stakes placed earlier this year on the turf. Only 2 for 19 in his career. Another one that doesn't have a ton of early speed. Picked up some pieces last time behind Pumpkin Rumble. Kind of stuck now in the mid-80s from a buyer's standpoint. I think a low 90 wins this.
2 for 19 overall, 7 times second or third. He also exits that allowance race that Pumpkin Rumble dusted everyone. He's very similar to English Illusion. I just don't know how he turns the tables on that one.
Melmich is just a cool horse, and a lot of folks are going to be rooting for him. He's earned over $1 million. He's won 17 of 41, has been in the exacta 30 times in his career. He won this race in 2015 by over 10 lengths with a 102 buyer. Now, maybe he's not that horse anymore at the age of 7, but I thought his last race was promising. There was 0 pace on, and he still was able to win pretty handily. The buyer, a light 86. Tough to get a big buyer in a slow-paced race. Timeform US, much more kind to Melmich's most recent performance. I think he still can run.
Yeah, and this horse, look, traditionally he's taken a step forward second off the bench, so I think you are going to get an improved effort. I personally think he has lost a little bit here as a 7-year-old. He may not have that sort of killer instinct in him that he once did, even just at middle point of last year, but that doesn't mean that he's incapable of winning a race like this, and you always have to respect him when he shows up in any one of these races. If he's there, he's a major player. I do find it interesting that Eurico Rosa da Silva finally goes off this horse. You keep in mind, he's ridden this horse for darn near his entire good career anyway. He's over $1 million in earnings. Contreras picks it up so you don't lose too much, but I just feel like this might be one of those instances at a short price I'll be against him.
We talked about handicapping the pace projector, and I think the 8 Ethical Funds is probably just going to make the lead as he did most recently in that allowance race, and Pumpkin Rumble and the rest sort of swallowed him up. He has shown in the past on turf the ability to get to the lead, slow the pace down, and kick home. I see 0 for 19 on synthetic. It worries me.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of little minor awards. I think he's a nibbler. I agree. He's going to be forwardly placed. I think they take him as long as they possibly can, and I think you're probably looking at something similar to that most recent run.
Formulator fact for the morning line favorite, the most likely winner, Pumpkin Rumble. Kevin Attard, past 4 years, older, last out winners on synthetic, going third off the layoff, 33% winners, 11 out of 15 on the board, a 252 ROI. This is one of my sons. I never thought when I was nibbling with Pumpkin Rumble and all those graded stakes races on turf at the fairgrounds 2-3 years ago, that here he'd be as a big favorite in the Valedictory after swamping 4 of these common rivals last time out. But let me tell you something. He destroyed that field last time.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about opening up and extending. He was never a loser in that spot. And that was at 1 5/8 miles. I know he ran in this race last year, and he just never really got involved. I have no reason to think that the form that he's in right now is all of a sudden going to go south. And who knows, maybe he is one of those rare instances. We talk about the sort of comparable surface with the turf and the synthetic. It seems like synthetic is really what he enjoys. Not that he's incapable on grass, but I just think he takes his game up to another level on the synth. He's 7 out of 9 in the exacta, 4 times a winner. To me, I just had a hard time getting by him. He's not interesting. He's the most likely winner, but I think he's going to win.
Top pick time. You think he's going to win? It's going to be Pumpkin Rumble for Matt. I'll take a small swing with the filly. AA Azul Arch. You mentioned the weight break. She's in at 114. Pumpkin Rumble. I'm only getting 1 pound. I'm only getting 1 pound from Pumpkin Rumble, Matt. What kind of weight break is that? But at the end of the day, I like the performance she gave last time out. I really think that from a stamina standpoint, she will get this distance. And I can see her sitting a trip off the 8. And I think that the 8, who's 0 for 19 on synth, at some point is going to give it up to AA Azula's Arch. Whether she has enough to hold off Pumpkin Rumble or Melmich, that's a different story. That's why you get paid if she wins. She's 12 to 1 on the morning line. I wouldn't take a dime under 10. You're going Pumpkin Rumble. I'm going 5, 9, 1, and 4. Give me underneath.
9, 4, 7, 5.
Should be a fun race, the Sunday DRFBets race of the day. Some salty old-timers, some old favorites, and a 3-year-old filly taking on the boys. It's the Grade 3 Valedictory. Bet it with a DRFBets account. You won't be sorry. 300% deposit match is yours when you sign up at bets.drf.com. Approximate post time 4:38 Eastern on a Sunday afternoon at Woodbine. Best of luck.